My faith in humanity is restored.
Welcome to Experience Points, presented by our friends at Avtex, who transform customer experience through CX design and orchestration. On Experience Points, contestants earn points by answering customer experience questions and share their insight on how to make your interactions remarkable. Those points turn into dollars for the charity of their choosing. I'm Dan Gingiss.
And I'm Joey Coleman, and we'd love to introduce you to today's contestant. Ladies and gentlemen, in many ways in the world of customer experience, this guy needs no introduction. When he comes into a room, you know that he's there. He's a New York Times best-selling author of 6 books. He's a member of the National Speakers Association Hall of Fame and an internet pioneer. Please welcome the incomparable Jay Baer.
Hey, gents, thanks very much for having me. Yeah, I'm a little overweight, but I think I can sneak into a room without notice.
Oh, I was referring more to the suits. I mean, it wasn't the size. It's the personality. It's the je ne sais quoi about Jay Baer.
I appreciate that.
Gosh, Joey, I mean, come on. Let's not offend the guests when they first get here, okay? So, Jay, you've spoken to hundreds of thousands of people over your career. What is one thing about you that you haven't shared with an audience before?
Ooh, how long's the show?
We'll make the extra time. Let the tape roll, kids.
You know what I don't think I've ever talked about on stage before is I met my wife first day, first class of college. 9 o'clock Monday morning is when we met, and I knew by 9:50 that she was the one for me. She definitely did not know that.
Took a little convincing.
I have never worked as hard before or since on anything. Not writing books, not starting companies, not anything as I did getting her to go out with me the first time. So I feel like my effort curve has been all downhill since I was like 19.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a marketer from day one, the toughest project ever. Convincing her to
You know what happened? She what she didn't realize, once I finally wore her down, and I use that term purposely, what really messed her up is I had a minor in Socratic argument, and that was that didn't work out well for her.
I love it.
Every time she said, here's why we shouldn't go out, I was like, however, have you also considered the converse?
I love it. I think you're the only person I know, Jay, and maybe the only person on the planet who minored in Socratic argument. I love it.
Thank you.
Well, you're going to be playing for a special charity today, Jay. Could you tell us a little bit about who you selected and why you love this organization?
This charity means a lot to me. It is the Dan Gingiss Toupee Fund. It helps the kids. It overcomes people who are follically challenged and allows them to reincorporate into society.
It's a lot of love. I think this is a fantastic charity. I'm not sure that it's a fully registered 501c3, but
you know what?
I think
who
we can get behind it.
I'm playing for the Boys and Girls Club of Bloomington, Indiana, where I live, here in Bloomington, go IU. My family has a long history of the Boys and Girls Club. My stepdad, before he passed away, actually not only kind of grew up in a boys club, but Boys and Girls Club, but worked there for many, many years. And it's an organization that my wife and I support a lot. And I think in the crazy times we live in, where people don't even have school to go to in the same ways in some cases they did in the past, your local Boys and Girls Club is doing great work for kids out there. So if you're not in touch with your local Boys and Girls Club and know what they're doing in your own communities, because obviously they're everywhere, please tune in.
So we're going to play What Happened.
In What Happened, watch the first half of an experience story. Choose what you think happens next from 4 possible endings. Answer correctly for 500 points. If incorrect, you'll be granted an extra life and the opportunity to answer from the remaining 3 endings for 250 points.
You ready to get started, Jay?
I am ready, yes.
Alrighty, well, today's customer experience story comes to us from David Rosenfield. Now, David is a commercial litigator of counsel at Gordon & Reese LLP in Denver, Colorado. Here's the experience David had.
purchased a kayak online about a month or so ago. I saw some sort of special on Instagram. An ad popped up, and it was I won't name the store, but it was with a reputable store, or at least a reputable sort of kayak company. So I didn't have too many qualms about it. And so I went ahead and purchased it, and I paid for it with PayPal. And a couple weeks had gone by, and I hadn't received the item, and I kept checking on the shipping status, and it said order still being processed, but it hadn't shipped yet. So I was a little concerned, and I sent I think two emails to the company that I purchased it through, asking about the shipping status. The first one I never heard back from. And then the second time, it said that the store that I had purchased it from off the ad no longer existed, but which seemed obviously odd and very concerning. And the company I knew still existed. I know the company that manufactured the kayak. So it was all very strange.
Internet curiosities. All right. So what happened? A, did he file a class action suit on behalf of customers who had paid for but not received their kayaks? B, called PayPal but was told they're not responsible for third-party sellers? C, sent a single message to PayPal and received a full refund? Or D, nothing. He ended up with no kayak and no refund and no smiles. Jay, what do you think happened? And why do you think it happened that way?
Can we talk about David impulse buying a kayak on Instagram?
We absolutely can.
Is that part of the show? Well, considering he is an attorney, you might think A, but to have a class, you have to have a whole lot of affected customers. It would be tricky for him to track that group down. Not impossible. But that's why you run TV ads like, do you have mesothelioma? Call David about kayaks. I don't think that's true. Because he's an attorney, I don't think he would, and he seems a little irked in the video, so I don't think he'd be like, well, that's the vagaries of Instagram. So I don't think D is necessarily the right answer. I think it's between B and C. Now, I am a little bit of a risk avoidance kind of person. And so the deal here is that I can give you 250 and basically assure myself of 250 if I am correct in narrowing this down to B and C. Do I have the rules of the game accurate?
You do have the rules of the game accurate. You're feeling pretty good, I think, based on your choices. You sound pretty confident. Which one between B or C do you think, though? Which way do you want to go?
So I've never tried to call PayPal, and I use them a lot. And it seems to me, because he said that he sent messages prior, it seems to me that David is more, let's try the digital communication methodology first as opposed to telephone. And I think PayPal is pretty good in my experiences. So I'm going to say C. And I'm hoping for the best, that he got a full refund.
It's definitely the best customer experience of the four. So
yes, I'm an optimist.
I'm not surprised you went that way.
I say C. I'm hoping for the best.
Let's watch the second half of the video and see what happened.
So basically, I reached out to PayPal and I asked them to, I sort of either disputed the charge or at least asked them to sort of further investigate it. And this was all done electronically, and PayPal said they'd get back to me by X date. I think it was like a week later. And precisely a week later to that date, or whatever the date they said they'd get back to me by, they in fact got back to me by, and they simply refunded my money and said that they confirmed that that the product hadn't been shipped to me, I hadn't received it, and that was it. The best part about it from my customer experience with PayPal was I had zero human interaction, and I literally only had to send one message with a brief description of what happened. They told me they'd get back to me by a certain date. They did, and they refunded my money.
Jay, brother, you got it right. Congratulations.
My faith in humanity is restored. Isn't it interesting, though? I think it's such a great illustration, guys, because so often you have one kind of customer experience. And then that forces you to interact with a different company, which then has a completely different customer experience, right? Like he feels way better about PayPal than he did before, only because he feels way worse about a kayak company. It's such an interesting dynamic, right?
It really is, Jay. And I think what's fascinating is as we move to more things being purchased online and being delivered by third-party shippers, you're right. There are these satellite companies that we have interaction with tangentially based on what we're trying to do. So you want to buy the kayak, well, you've got the relationship with PayPal for processing the payment. Then you've got the relationship with UPS or FedEx or the post office, whoever the shipper is delivering the product. And then you've still got the relationship with the original seller of the kayak. It gets pretty complicated. And I think you bring up an excellent point. Not only does it get complicated, but we're kind of at the mercy of the other people in the chain, right? If you're let's pretend in this hypothetical that the kayak seller was a great organization, but something went wrong with the payment processing.
That happened to me.
Yeah.
Just a week ago. I might even do this as an episode of the show, so I won't give it all away. But I made a very large purchase online, great experience, and then they contracted the shipping to a third party, and like the worst shipping I've ever had. And I actually had to get a hold of the company and say, look, I can't recommend your product, even though it's great and I love it, because the last mile was so bad. I know it's not even your company, but you got to pick somebody else, do something, right? It was crazy. Because so your brand is not just, you know what, use another example. I think we've talked about this before, Genghis. Like, you know how so many brands will have manifestations of the brand in public places. So the example I go to is airports, and how in lots and lots and lots of airports there are Starbucks. But the people working at the airport Starbucks are not Starbucks employees. They're working for the airport concessionaire. And trust me, your Starbucks customer service and the ability to execute on any drink that's not hot coffee in a cup is not nearly as good at the airport location as it is in an actual Starbucks location. But yet it's the same uniform, it's the same logo, right? So you're actually, your thirst to expand and be in all these big public places, stadium, airport, whatever, is actually imperiling your brand and your customer experience in some ways.
Yeah, I agreed. And, you know, the example I love to use, since I know we're all sports fans here, is, you know, you think about a stadium, and the stadium can put on great activities for the kids and have amazing food and have great sight lines, and it can be a terrific place to watch a ball game. But it could rain, or the team could suck, or, you know, there's things that are completely out of its control, no matter how good you make the experience. And to me, the lesson is you have to do your part. Certainly, you have to make sure that the part of the experience that you control is working. But if you're going to partner with a third party, a payment processor, a shipper, or something like that, you got to make sure that those lines of communication are open as well. Because, you know, David could have blamed the shipping company, the payment company, or the kayak company in this instance, and you never sort of know who is going
or
to... Or Instagram, maybe. Or us for telling his story on the game show. But, you know, you don't really know who's going to have to shoulder the blame. And so when you partner, you do have to be aware of how their experience is as well.
When the Washington Nationals baseball team built their new stadium, they intentionally went out and got local restaurants to build locations in the stadium. So like Ben's Chili Bowl, which is very famous location in Washington, D.C., of a kind of fixed location, they actually put a Ben's Chili's Bowl in the stadium. And to your point, Dan, I think that helped solve the problem, because the people working there were actually representatives of the entire brand. And so it made for a different experience. You know, I'm reminded of something my wife said, and to be clear, she was not speaking about me personally when she said this, but it encapsulated it so beautifully. She said, it's not your fault, but it's your problem. And that idea that all too often when we're interacting and we have partners, I mean, it's one that my wife is absolutely brilliant. And it was one of those things where she said that and I was like, I have to write that down and quote you directly, because so often in customer experience scenarios, we get caught up in the fact that it's not our fault. We're like, yeah, but I didn't do it. We didn't fail. It wasn't our problem. And it's like, doesn't matter. For the customer, it's a problem, which by default means it's your problem.
That's a good book title. One of you should borrow that.
Hey, there we go. I like it. Okay, Dan, let's recap. How did Jay do playing What Happened?
Well, Joey, as you know, correct answers in this game are worth 500 points. And Jay indeed answered correctly, which means he earned 500 points. Now, these points convert into dollars, which means Jay has earned a $500 donation to the Boys and Girls Club of Bloomington. Congratulations, Mr. Bear.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to EvTech, most importantly. I appreciate it.
Woo-woo, Jay, I love it. That concludes this episode of Experience Points. Check out more games with Jay and our other celebrity contestants at experiencepointsgame.com. That's experiencepointsgame.com. We'll see you soon for more examples of remarkable experiences here at Experience Points, presented by Avtex.
So, Mike, in healthcare, you know, the idea of kind of multiple parties is front and center every time somebody gets a bill from a hospital for a procedure.
It is, and I wish we could have an experience that felt more effortless, that minimized the amount of attention and effort I need to put into it. But unfortunately in healthcare, you've got so many different parties that many times when I go in for a procedure or a patient goes in for a procedure, Kurt, I get home and I've got a bill from the hospital, I've got one from the insurance company, I might have one from the radiologist, and at the end of the day, I'm not sure how much I owe and what's covered. And that interaction, one of the things we talk about to our providers is that it's really the upfront part. How easy is it to schedule it, to know what I need to do? And the back end part, how clear is my bill? That's what I use. Those are the pillars that I use to reflect on that overall experience. And if those two are not good, kind of the beginning and the end, that overshadows what might have otherwise been a great surgery or a healthy outcome. And it's really, I think one of the things you talk about is it's the beginning and the end, and then the peaks and the valleys that lead to the overall experience.